In the 1960s, the U.S. was in a great state of upheaval. The civil rights movement was being opposed by staunch proponents of segregation, and the Cold War with the Soviet Union was reaching new heights in regards to fear of communism and nuclear weapons. During this time, an aspiring screenwriter named Gene Roddenberry saw the issues with the world around him and decided to create a show set in the future where the issues of the day were no longer prevalent and society was no longer divided by them. This show became Star Trek. Star Roddenberry's show only lasted 3 seasons, but its popularity and syndication led to the creation of 6 different Star Trek series, 13 films, and a multi-million-dollar media empire. Despite the franchise's success, the original series has had the most relevance to our world out of the entire franchise. The show talks about the issues that faced the world in the 1960s and the issues that faced the world to us in a way that was unique to reading or writing the news. Star Trek, the original series, is one of the most important TV shows of all time because of the themes that it explores and their application to the world around us. Star Trek used different races of aliens and compared them to empires and governments in our world. It talked about issues in their society and compared them to those of the Cold War. And the show also talked about the futility of racism. In the show, there are many different alien species, and in most episodes, they have some similarity to an Earth government from the past. One running similarity throughout the series one was the comparison of the Klingons to the Russians. In the US, it was believed that the Soviet Union was inherently evil because they were communist and wanted to turn over other nations to their side using violence and war. Roddenberry made the Klingons out to be savages and warlike. The Klingon Empire was made of conquered worlds, and the prisoners were made to work on death planets similar to the gulags of Russia and the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. The show also displayed worlds with parallel societies to those on Earth. In the episode A Piece of the Action, the crew of the Enterprise reached the planet Sigma Iosha 2, where a society similar to 1920 Chicago developed, where gangs and mob violence were the norm. And during the creation of Star Trek, the Cold War was at its peak, and one of the biggest concerns was nuclear weapons and the outbreak of war. In the show, the Federation no longer has to engage in war, but the Enterprise faces many challenges on other planets relating to war. In the episode A Taste of Armageddon, the Enterprise visit the planet Miniar 7, where the people have engaged in a computerized war with their neighbors, where no damage was done, but casualties are logged in simulated attacks using computers, and those who are logged are required to report to death chambers. The message behind this episode was a warning to everyone that war cannot become a normal occurrence because the society in the episode eventually saw war as something that didn't need to be avoided. In the years that Star Trek took place, racism is no longer an issue. On the crew of the Enterprise, many races are represented, including alien species. This includes Science Officer Spock, who's a half human, half Vulcan, and Lieutenant Uhura, who's an African American. She serves as the communications officer. In one episode, The Savage Curtain, a simulated image of Abraham Lincoln appears on the bridge of the Enterprise. He unintentionally uses a racial epithet to describe Lieutenant Uhura, and Lieutenant Uhura explains that she is not offended because in their society they learn not to fear words despite how hurtful they may be and how threatening they may be. Even though the show was made over 50 years ago, the issues related to racism and war are still very relevant today. The show has been an interesting medium to learn about these issues in a very entertaining way. I would encourage you guys to watch this show and try to see the comparisons and try to come up with your own as well.